Israel Update with Gadi and Mike Duran. Hello and welcome to Tablet's Israel Update. Nasrallah is dead. It's almost a year to this war, 359 days since it started. It's September the 29th, and we're recording early this week because so much has happened, and we feel we need to give you some more context. And also, it's going to be Rosh Hashanah in next week, and so we may or may not be able to record another show. I'm Gadi in Tel Aviv, and Mike, I am in a disclosed, unsecure location in my own home. That's a new location that you are witnessing. That's my living room.
New background. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a background, but it's not fake. It's not fake. It's real.
You read a lot of books. You must be.
No, I don't. I buy a lot of books. It's a different. I read very slowly. I'm dyslexic. This show is produced by Yaakov Wilner, and Mike is in his office for a change. And before we go to the news, Mike, we were touched and uplifted, not just by events this week, which were dramatic, but also by the many suggestions we got for slogans for this show. We're going to sift through them slowly and choose the best, and then maybe we'll put them up for a vote, or we'll just overrule everybody and decide on our own. We don't know yet. I think Mike's suggestion, Israel Update, where no one will hear you scream, has been generally rejected.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Many people, I was surprised how many people said they like it.
Yeah. I want. Are these the viewers that we want? So we're still collecting them. If you had good ideas, the other one, the one that I had was much less funny.
Never insult the audience, Gadi. That's the rule number one.
Oh, sorry. So I apologize. There was an extremely successful Israeli radio show which was only about insulting the callers. Oh, that was the only thing they did. This was an amazing hit. But this show is for Americans, although that some 16% of our viewers are actually in Israel, and this is for the English version. The version with subtitles gets as many views as this version. So we have a big following in Israel because our slogan, "We cut through the media bias," applies to Israel just as well. We
don't have a slogan yet.
Yeah, we don't have a slogan.
You're trying to sell your slogan, establish your slogan as our slogan.
I'll correct myself. My not good enough slogan is nevertheless true because people in Israel also suffer from the amazing media bias in this country. And when we reach the end of this show and the dumbest takes on the news, Mike, I'll have a whole collection of your favorite journalists and how they are trying to avoid giving credit to Netanyahu for anything that happened this week. They do ballet maneuvers in the dark in order to do that. But why don't we first go to the headlines?
That reminds me, one of the slogans that we could have would be, we read Ben Kespit so you don't have to. Okay, now topping the news, Gadi, is of course the death of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. What good news that was. He was killed in an Israeli Air Force strike on Beirut's Dahia quarter on Friday afternoon.
And The Hague.
Dahia in The Hague. In The Hague, they didn't like the hit on the Dahia. A formation of at least 10 Israeli combat planes dropped some 83 tons of explosives, including bunker buster bombs, which destroyed the heavily fortified underground bunker that served as Hezbollah's headquarters. Among those killed, Gadi, were dozens of senior Hezbollah figures, including Ali Karaki, the commander of Hezbollah's southern front. This is, of course, in addition to Nasrallah. Ibrahim Hussein Jazini, head of Nasrallah's personal security unit, and additionally, the deputy commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force Abbas Nilforoushan. Nilforoushan was the succeeded Zahedi in that position. Zahedi, who was killed, you remember when the Israelis hit the consulate in Damascus? That prompted the Iranians to shoot. He was killed last April 1. The Iranians shot the largest ballistic missile barrage that any country has ever shot at another at Israel on April 13, 14. So just Nilforoushan alone was a very big deal, is what I'm trying to say. But of course, it was overshadowed by Nasrallah and all of the other dozens that were killed. The IDF has since followed up with the Beirut attack, with that Beirut attack on Friday, with many other attacks across Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah stockpiles of rockets, missiles, and drones and other weapons, as well as other top Hezbollah leaders. Hezbollah's response to the Israeli strikes has fallen far short of expectations and overwhelmingly has been restricted to limited rocket and drone fire on northern Israel. Dozens of attacks, most of which have done no damage. In Delaware, Gadi, reporters ask the president of the United States, I forgot what his name is, Joe Biden, if an IDF incursion into Lebanon was inevitable, and he answered by saying, I like vanilla. No, he did not say that, Gadi. That's not true. He replied that the time is right for a ceasefire. And he might as well just have said that he likes vanilla. Yesterday, that's Saturday, the IDF intercepted ballistic missiles that the Houthis claim, or a ballistic missile, pardon me, that the Houthis claim was aimed at Prime Minister Netanyahu's plane as he returned from New York, where he gave an address at the United Nations. The Houthis say they targeted the Ben Gurion airport as Netanyahu's plane was landing. That missile, however, was shot down by the Aero defensive system. And as a result, today, Sunday, Israel has struck Yemen and Hodeidah. The pictures of the burning port again are already on the internet. And I heard, Gadi, this is a rumor I heard from a well-informed friend, that there may also have been a helicopter downed in Yemen with a senior Houthi figure on board. That's a rumor. We have to wait to find out if that's true or not.
Yeah, but this fits into the thesis that Netanyahu keeps hammering on, is that we will personally get anyone who targets Israel in all these proxy organizations. So Mike, the first thing is we have been talking about two narratives that try to explain the war that we have with Iran on 7 fronts. One is the administration's narrative, which tries to frame the whole thing as one more chapter in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which arouses anger all around the Middle East. And therefore, if we find an Israeli-Palestinian solution, or at least negotiations towards one, then everybody else will calm down because this is the problem. And the other narrative, which is also the truth, is that this is a war with Iran through all these proxies. Now, the first thing to say about the massive Israeli campaign against Hezbollah is that, well, I'll put it as mildly as I can. It challenges very effectively by fact the Biden administration's narrative about this war. Am I exaggerating?
Not one bit. Let's just say, I think that this event, the targeting of Nasrallah, the killing of Nasrallah on Friday, is the biggest thing that has happened in the Middle East since the killing of Qasem Soleimani in 2020 by the Americans. But I think it's even bigger than that. I really do. I think it's much bigger. I think that this is really. I'm trying to keep my. I'm trying to keep my analyses very sober, but I believe this is an historic turning point. I really do, and I think it is the beginning of the severe decline of Iran's axis of resistance. I could be wrong. We'll talk about more about this in a minute. I'm always aware that the United States, particularly this administration and working under the Obama view of the Middle East, has a remarkable ability to steal victory or steal defeat from the jaws of victory. Israel, let's put it this way, in the most sober way possible, Israel has just offered the United States and the world an opportunity to really turn the tables on Iran across the Middle East. It may do this on its own. It may do this on its own, turn the tables on Iran across the Middle East, but it has certainly offered the United States an opportunity. I'm not that optimistic that the United States will grab it, but in terms of Israel's war with Iran, this was definitely a turning point, and Israel is now, I think, is now beginning to win the war.
That's amazing, because we thought we may be too cocky last time that we spoke. That was after the second wave, not just the beepers, and we warned ourselves not to declare victory too early. I think this warning still holds. Things can change.
So we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it in depth. I just want to emphasize right here at the beginning of the discussion that my own feelings about what I didn't see this coming. I didn't see this drastic escalation by Israel, successful escalation by Israel, this amazing, unbelievable intelligence dominance of the battlefield by Israel. I didn't see any of this coming. And so, and I didn't predict any of it. The war that I thought we were going to get I thought things were going to escalate. Remember a few weeks ago, time and again, I said, it's going to escalate. It's going to escalate. I thought it was going to escalate with Hezbollah and Iran simultaneously. And I thought that Israel was going to be hit with much more significant attacks from Hezbollah and Iran than it has been hit with. And so I didn't see any of this coming, and I'm just trying to absorb what it all means. And by the way, I think I'm not alone. I think there were lots of Israelis, I'm talking about well-informed Israelis who didn't know, who didn't expect this either. But nonetheless, I didn't expect it. Now I'm seeing it, and I'm trying to absorb what it means. I don't want to be too cocky. There's a lot. Hezbollah still has a lot of fight in it, and it still has a lot of very serious weapons. But the advantage now is clearly on the side of the Israelis.
Well, I think one thing we can see is the contrast between our deep intelligence penetration of Hezbollah and our almost complete blindness towards Hamas. And this just goes to show that nobody gave a warning about Hamas. Whoever is pretending they did not. Everyone was focused on Hezbollah in our intelligence, not just army intelligence, Mossad, Shabak. Everyone thought that trouble will open from the north. Mitzafon tipatach hara'a. Is that biblical? I think it is.
I never heard it before.
The trouble will begin with the north. That's one thing, and it's worth mentioning now that we are about a week away from October 7, and Israel, for the first time after a year, and it's symbolic, and it's really uplifting and exhilarating, because this was a very, very dark year, and everyone, and the hosts of this show included, looked ahead at the brewing storm and thought that things can go very, very badly, with the Iranians coming up with a viable strategy to wear down Israel, with an American administration that's refusing to back Israel on the most important things, that's tying our hands and stopping us for moving to deliver decisive blows. And Hezbollah was the darkest cloud on the horizon. So the mood here completely changed. And Mike, you said last time, before the hit on Nasrallah's bunker, that Israel achieved escalation dominance. How would you describe the situation now then?
Yeah, I'd say super escalation dominance. I mean, and just to just to reinforce the point, they hit Yemen today, right? So Nasrallah on Friday, Yemen on Sunday, and Netanyahu in his speech from New York on Friday, he made clear there was a very, very thinly veiled threat to the Iranians that if they open up against Israel, Israel will hit them too.
You know what the press here said about the press was preoccupied with the Netanyahu trip, and their take on it was that Netanyahu gave in to Sarah, his wife, who wanted a weekend in New York. And therefore, he left the country in the middle of a war to give a useless speech before an empty hall. This is actually the framing of the press here, which is becoming stupider by the moment. Look, thereby,
their brains are fried. What can you do? I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Their brains are fried.
Just goes to show that my slogan is really on target, even if it's not good. But let me be the devil's advocate here.
But we'll talk about slogans later.
Wait. Let me be the devil's advocate and tell you what worries me. And I've discussed it with some friends here whose opinions I appreciate. And Iran's restraint is worrying. Iran is clearly holding back. You mentioned this when you referred back to their attack on April 13th for smaller infringements than what we are doing now, and they're holding back because they are probably thinking that they may be able to save their own skins and therefore their nuclear program if they just stay put and stay out of this. And therefore, the first thing they did, since they know the game, the first thing they did after the Israeli attack is blame
the United States.
The United States.
They're
playing the right game.
Yeah, well, playing the right game. They're playing a game. But there's a phrase in Turkish which I don't know, and basically, if somebody slaps you in public, and you give them a little slap in return in private, it's not an equal answer. It's not an equivalent step.
Yeah.
The Israel just humiliated. It just put its boot on the face of Khamenei. Nasrallah in the axis of, he has a special status in the axis of resistance, and he is the number 2 figure, and he's the number 1 figure for Iran in the Arab world. Someone said, was it Netanyahu, I think, said in one of his he put out, I can't remember, I've read so much stuff in the last few days. He said this was the axis of the axis. And it's not wrong, because this is the point at which Iran feeds into the Arab world. Hezbollah is training the Houthis. Hezbollah is in control of, or advising and managing the communications of the Houthis. So this is the headquarters of the Dahiya in Beirut is the headquarters for Iran in the Arab world, and we were told that if Israel went into the Dahiya, all hell was going to break loose. Nasrallah told us that. Khamenei told us that. Khamenei told us that Israel was going to pay for the assassination of Hania. So Israel said, "Okay, bring it on," and they didn't. That's a very big deal. Now they are playing the American card, and unfortunately, the Biden administration, with its mania for de-escalation and its desire for some kind of modus vivendi with Iran, it can be relied upon, and like Pavlov's dog, the minute the Iranians say, "Watch it, America, we're going to hold you responsible for this," and they didn't just say it. They've also apparently carried out strikes against American bases in Iraq. They have organized all of these protesters outside of the American embassy in Baghdad. And what the message the Iranians are sending to the Americans is, we will hold you responsible for this. You must restrain your Jewish dogs. Restrain your Jewish dogs, or we're gonna make you pay a big price. And then, of course, like Pavlov's dogs, the Americans just immediately turn to the Israelis and say, "Don't you dare, don't you dare go into southern Lebanon." And
here's how it can all go wrong, Mike. The Americans will put maximum pressure on Israel, say that they will withhold everything, ammunition, material, diplomatic support in the Security Council, everything. And Israel will reach the furthest it can. It will push Hezbollah southwards. It will not occupy South Lebanon. The international community will impose some kind of new 1701. We will tell ourselves that we did great damage to Hezbollah, but they will stay beyond the Litani, and under the cover of an international umbrella, Iran, who dominates the boots on the ground and dominates the area, will be able to start resupplying and rebuilding Hezbollah while it is also working on its nuclear program. And we will find ourselves with, if we only get halfway, we will find ourselves 5 years hence in a worse situation under a nuclear umbrella.
That is the worst case scenario for what's going to happen here right now. That's the worst case scenario. But that worst case scenario that you just laid out is a hell of a lot better than the worst case scenario that I would have given just 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because I think that the bloody nose, it's more than a bloody nose, the battering that Israel has given Hezbollah, it's really taking Hezbollah apart from the air, something that I didn't think was possible to do. I didn't think they could get at Nasrallah in his bunker and take out. Look at the org chart of Hezbollah and all of the eliminations that Israel has conducted just in the last couple of weeks. It's really, I don't know, Gadi, let's just take a moment to savor this. I can't think of an example in history of such a large number of high value targets taken out in such a short period of time. Certainly, I mean, if you think about the Americans when they went into Iraq and they had their playing cards with all the top, some of those guys are still alive that were in those playing cards.
Someone joked here that Israel should start being careful not to hit its own sources inside Hezbollah.
It probably has it.
Because we do. I would just want to, I checked something that I said earlier. Mitzafon tipatach ha'ara, from the north, the trouble will start. And this is actually, it is biblical. It's from Jeremiah. And so, but the feeling here is biblical. How do you know the Haggadah of the Passover Haggadah?
I've sat at a few Passovers and
so help me with the English.
Favorite line is, of course, Shvo chametcha al goyim.
Now translate that for us.
Pour forth your rage on the goyim. As a goy, I always insist on reading that. You can there's when you sit at the homes of liberal Jews, they get all embarrassed and they take it. Sometimes they don't even read the line. I always insist on reading.
Amit Segal.
They even said that some of the liberal Jews even have a goddess where they took it out completely.
Yeah. It's time to bring these things back. Amit Segal, your favorite journalist, is co-hosts a show with your least favorite journalist, Ben Kasfit. They co-host a show together, and Amit Segal brought cups and liquor and wanted to toast, and you could see like the usual media people, Ben Kasfit, Dan.
No, you know what it was. You know what it was. It was just like when I was at the Netanyahu's speech before Congress and watching Chuck Schumer. Watching Chuck Schumer, that it was like doing
squats.
You had to keep getting up and down, up and down, up and down. And Chuck Schumer had to decide on each line: do I get up on this line? Do I not go? I don't want to be seen to be clapping for Netanyahu or for the right wing or for the Republicans or whatever. But that was the thing with Ben Kasfit and Amit Segal. Ben Caspit wanted to make sure that he wouldn't be seen to be drinking when the hostages were still being held, and maybe it would be like he was saying something good about Netanyahu, and so he was trying to find the formulation that would allow him to have a drink.
To have a toast, but not to Netanyahu. So in the Haggadah, there are the 10 strokes or the 10 curses, the 10 plagues that God brought down on Egypt for Israel, and the last and most severe was Makat Bechorot. It's the killing of every firstborn in every family. And so I think maybe it was a myth also here. I'm quoting it a lot today, who said that the beeper attack was biblical. It shows the exactly the right people. And now in the precision of these strikes and their effectiveness is uplifting. And I'm returning to this point.
Sorry, I want to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you for 1 second. And I know that we have some of your favorite some of the people who watch this to listen to you. They get upset when I interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you. Just think for a second. The beeper thing seems like ancient history. Like that. We should still be savoring the genius of that move, right? But we've already moved along two more major attacks, each one greater than the other. An Israeli told me after the beeper thing, he said, we have more rabbits to pull out of our hat, believe me. And I said, okay, well, we'll see. But here's another one. Maybe there are more yet to come. Okay, I'm sorry. I interrupted you now.
So I just wanted to go back to, I don't mean to belabor this, but to go back to what the effect on the mood. Israelis, their sense of security in life depended on the IDF, which was beaten by a ragtag band of flip-flop wearing terrorists. That's an exaggeration, but these are amateur terrorists in Toyota pickup trucks. Beat the mighty IDF with its super cyber capabilities and the intelligence, and then delivered a blow that's and horrors that we haven't seen since the Holocaust. And we explained this on this show many times. Israelis are willing to die, but not like sheep to the slaughter, as we say. Not like we remember Jews on their knees getting a bullet in the back of their head like the hostages did. This reverberates with the nervous system of every Jew in Israel. And now the IDF has been vindicated again. And if you looked at newspapers worldwide, you would see this repeated. The IDF has proven that it's still the most sophisticated, talented military force in the world. And that is existential with Israel. It's not a professional matter of, the talent and the sophistication and the technology of the military. It goes down to our very sense of being able to exist in this wild region where we are a tiny minority sitting on a tiny tract of land. As Trump said, Israel is way too small, and surrounded by this huge hostile region with a population 40 times larger than ourselves, the Arab Muslims around us. So this week has been, it was an existential change. I'm not saying it was, if you'd measure it on this Richter scale, it's probably not as strong as October 7th, but it's halfway there, and it helps close the circle.
You're talking about the morale in Israel.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
By the way, in response to what you just said, I think it's really worth noting, and I've noted them on my Twitter feed, how many Arab, Muslim, Middle Easterners are just celebrating with joy at the killing of Nasrallah, and expressing thanks directly to Netanyahu for doing
more
it.
than the Israelis are doing. In Israel,
I bring this up because it's a point of some disagreement I had with you, and why Israel has to be careful not to conceive of this as Muslim versus Jew. Obviously, there are people out there saying there are Muslims out there saying it is a Muslim duty to attack the Jews and so on and so forth, and obviously that has some resonance in some quarters. But there are lots of people out there who are they may not be Israel's allies, but they're overt allies, but they are the tacit allies of Israel in this for sure. Lots of
people. We do have a disagreement here, but it's not black and white. There are grays in the middle, and I think we should discuss it, but maybe not today.
No, not today. I'm just flagging this for further discussion.
Yep. So the next thing I think we should talk about is Netanyahu's speech, which was also foreshadowed. It's easy to make a transition.
Let's talk a little bit more about Nasrallah. I want to talk a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll just hit the main points. We already hit them, but I want to just say, analytically, what has happened since the killing of Nasrallah still belongs in, I think, the framework I set out last time, although I already forgot what I said last week. But basically, this is all a response to April 13. April 13, 14, that's when Iran hit Israel with these ballistic missile barrage, the drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and the United States restrained Israel both on the front end of the attack, when it told Israel not to preempt, when Israel knew it was coming, and on the back end of the attack when Biden said, take the win. That was a low point in the war for Israel because it combined the two big challenges that Israel has into one, and they reinforced each other. Those two challenges being, number one, Iran's disruptive military capabilities, which it has distributed, which it has in great supply in Iran itself, but it's also distributed to all of its proxies. It's because of those disruptive military capabilities that Hezbollah is able to disrupt life in the north of Israel. Israel does not have, this is the military challenge that the Israelis still have. It does not have a good answer to those disruptive military capabilities. The blows that it has struck against Hezbollah are great, and they may actually bring the organization to decide that it wants a ceasefire, maybe, but there's no weapon that Israel has that can actually suppress the fire from Lebanon. It has to go in and take every launcher out. It's extremely difficult to do, especially because of the tunnel network that Hezbollah has. So that job gets all the more difficult because the United States is restraining Israel, and the restraints are greater than we can see publicly. Because the IDF is dependent on the Americans for many things, including basic ammunition for the Iron Dome. The Israeli government doesn't like to talk openly about the disagreements with the United States on these issues. But the United States is restraining Israel, and it's openly, explicitly now saying, don't go in on the ground in Lebanon, which, of course, the Israelis have to go in on the ground in Lebanon if they really want to suppress the fire into the north. There's no other way. There's no other way to do it. So that was the low point, April 13, and Israel has been pushing back. It has erased many American red lines, and every American should be happy that it has done so, because it has shown that Iran, while not a paper tiger, is not nearly as powerful as it started to look like it was because of these disruptive capabilities that it has. It has many vulnerabilities, many weaknesses. It has no significant regular military or air force. It is vulnerable to attack. Israel could shut down its entire oil export capability overnight if Israel wanted to. The only reason Israel's not doing that is because America is restraining Israel. Now, I thought that just by dint of those disruptive military capabilities, forget about the American restraint, I thought that Iran and Hezbollah were able to really hit Israel hard and hurt it. They hit a lot of critical national infrastructure, to hit it with ballistic missiles and so forth. But the response that we're seeing from Hezbollah suggests that Israel has done a much greater job at suppressing the worst fire from Lebanon. I don't believe that Hezbollah is not trying to hit Israel harder, or Iran for that matter. It's not through its other proxies like the Houthis is not trying to hit Israel. They're not succeeding because the IDF is succeeding much greater than I ever thought it could. This is an opportunity if the United States were to come in behind Israel and strengthen it diplomatically and militarily, and help it to expand the escalation dominance that it has over Iran. The United States could really use this moment to change the balance. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can expect that from this administration. But what we should be thankful to this administration for one thing, Gadi, and that is that there's a vacuum at the top. President Biden, let's be nice to the man. He's not operating at peak performance. And Kamala Harris is a non-entity, and Prime Minister Netanyahu understands that. He sees an opportunity, and this is my final point here of analysis, Gadi. I think the net between now and the election is the real opportunity for Israel to do maximum damage to those sons of bitches in the north. Right? This is the opportunity, and I think the Israelis understand that, and I think they're seizing it.
So let me make it a little harder for you. The Americans are allegedly, or as far as we know, it's not allegedly, it's as far as we know, are going to put maximum pressure on Israel not to invade the Lebanon on the ground. What if Israel does?
Then there'll be I mean, look, the Americans have put pressure on Israel at every stage in this war. Not to go into Gaza, not to go into Gaza, period. Not to go into Gaza City, not to go into Khan Yunis, not to go into Rafah. It made it very clear publicly not to go into Rafah, and Netanyahu argued with them. So I suspect that what's happening behind the scenes right now is that Netanyahu is arguing with them about the South and what he's going to start doing. What the Israelis already have been carrying out special forces, special operations raids into southern Lebanon. That's been happening. So we're going to see more. I suspect we'll see more of that, because what the Americans are saying is no large scale incursion. So then the Israeli Talmudic brain kicks into action, and they go back to Washington and say, large scale. What's the definition of large scale? Where does large scale begin? Where does it end? Right? And all the disputation begins, and in the meantime, small scale stuff starts happening, and pretty soon the red line becomes kind of pink, and so on. That's what I think will happen.
Okay, we need to talk about Netanyahu's speech, but as we speak, I'm getting push messages on my Telegram. So one of them is that Gideon Sa'ar is joining the coalition.
Yeah, I saw that. As I knew that. I'm already informed, Gadi.
Oh, good for you. I wasn't, and it just popped up. It just popped up on one of the Telegram channels. And the other thing to mention is that there is a new poll out on channel 14, which puts Netanyahu's Likud for the first time at 31 seats, with Gantz at 15, and Lieberman at 15, and Yair Lapid at 9 seats.
Oh, poor Lapid.
We have been so right all along, saying that Netanyahu has hitched himself to the idea of victory. Everyone that fell by the wayside at one point or another said, Gallant said victory is nonsense. Benny Gantz said we can achieve victory in 2 or 3 years. In 1 or 2 years, we can renew the war. We can stop it now. Yair Lapid supported the ceasefire agreement, first for the hostages and then without the hostages. And all these people went down in the polls while Netanyahu was going up, and also Lieberman. We should talk about.
Why is Lieberman going up in the polls here?
Because Lieberman is, as always, posing as the most hawkish of the politician, whether in his style or whether in the content. I don't know if you remember, before he became Minister of Security, Lieberman kept saying that the government should be able to finish Hezbollah off, and he would do it in 24 hours or something like that. So his hawkish posture is probably working to his advantage. And Netanyahu played the same card in the UN. And I thought, by way of transition, just to mention the brilliant cartoon by Moshe Golist of Israel Hayom, Israel Today, who saw Netanyahu with the two cardboards. You know, he had the blessing and the curse. You remember that in the speech? Yeah. So he had him with two other cardboard, one saying Hassan Nasrallah, and the other said, "Look up." And
that's because that's because the idea was that Nasrallah in the bunker was watching the speech
and the timing. And many people in Israel said with much satisfaction that the last thing on earth that Nasrallah saw was Netanyahu at the UN. So, that's the last thing he saw on this earth.
I hope that that's true. I hope that that's true. Yeah. Just as he hears the 2,000-pound bomb breaking through the ceilings above him, he's looking at Netanyahu on. Magal said that he when he was watching Netanyahu at the UN, and he thought that Netanyahu was kind of racing through the speech at a faster pace than he usually does. And Magal said that I just noticed it. I didn't attach any significance to it. Well, I noticed it, but now going back, when you look at it, you can see that he was nervous because he knew what was happening. I think that's probably right. I listened to the speech after the attack on Nasrallah, and I do think Netanyahu was a little bit nervous and racing through it. Although I wouldn't have noticed it if Magal hadn't said that.
And one last thing before we leave Lebanon is that I had an idea for a secret weapon for the IDF, Mike. After the beepers and the walkie-talkies, I thought that if we have cyber capabilities and we can take over their cell phones, why don't we plant on their cell phones a ringtone that goes boom? Wouldn't that be like, wouldn't they get heart attacks from that? I keep thinking in the biblical plagues.
My favorite plague is frogs. I don't know why. Frogs are a plague.
That's a strange choice, but we should discuss it with professionals and not on this show.
Okay.
So here's what I noted about the speech. I thought Netanyahu is preparing for a showdown with the Americans, for a public showdowns, because the themes were the themes from Congress, the same themes, and he again positioned himself in the UN. It's very palpable. He placed himself in a leading role in the West as leading the fight of the West against evil, while not directly taking credit for it. He when he spoke to the joint session of the two houses of Congress, he ceremoniously gave that role to America. But now he did something else. He said the world should stop appeasing Iran.
Yes.
He did not say America should stop appeasing Iran, but he came that close, because the world, when you refer to it in general, you also refer to the largest power in the world. So obviously the Chinese are not supposed to, we don't expect them to be restraining Iran. But would you think, Mike, it's a viable interpretation of what he did, that to say that he's preparing for a possible public showdown in which he will expose what the Biden administration is not revealing to its own constituency?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's totally viable. By the way, I have the speech here, and you'll see I highlighted a few places, and the thing I highlighted the most was the world must stop appeasing Iran. So we're on the same page. Mm-hmm. You and I. I thought it was interesting. I was going to make those same 2 points you made about the leader of the West and the appeasing of Iran. I was going to add one more, which was he held up the two pictures of the curse and the blessing, which is two different pictures of Middle Eastern order. and he's trying to say to the Americans, you should be the lead. We need you to be the leader of this new order. Then you're working to appease Iran, and that's working against this potential order. So, in other words, he is saying what I think in his own political language, what I just said a few minutes ago, that this can be a turning point. Israeli power can be a tool that the United States can use to create this new order. And Israel's attacks, by attacking Hezbollah with impunity, its readiness to attack Iran and so on, it should be showing America that the superpower, which is so much more powerful than Israel, ought to be able to work together with it to achieve these things. So this is a great answer to the American claim that what's being fought about is Gaza. So it's objectively false. Netanyahu is objectively correct, and he's offering the way. Now, I doubt that if Kamala Harris wins, that she'll follow his direction. But if Donald Trump wins, he likely will.
And that's a great relief. I want to talk more in the coming shows about Israel's chances in a hostile Middle East if Kamala Harris does win. And I feel that even under these circumstances, our chances have improved this week, and the map has really changed. And so the sense of doom that we of possible doom. I don't think I had a sense of doom, but a sense that there was a possibility of doom. That's been alleviated to an extent, and it's time now to alleviate the mood in this show, if that is still possible, by referring to the comments and the many suggestions we had from our viewers for slogans for this show. You remember the two competing ones, both ruled out. One very precise but lacking in charm. Mine, Israel update. We cut through the media bias for you. And Mike's much wittier but less accurate Israel update, where no one will hear you scream. I just disproved you.
So listen, we got so many suggestions that I can't go through all of them right now. And like you say, we're gonna have to find a way to sort through them. And so on. Let me just give you a couple of them.
You should start putting them one against the other on your Twitter for votes.
One against the other. So we set up. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. That's a very good idea. Before I get to the slogans, actually, though, we had a couple of comments. Several people, Gadi, said they want to hear from your cat. Another guy said he wants to find out how you and I met, which we can do another time. Someone else said that we need to actually identify ourselves a little bit more. Not everyone knows who we are. That was really depressing to hear. But we have to say a little bit more about our backgrounds, and I thought maybe we should work on that. We'll do that in the future. We will. Okay, let me give you some ideas here. Oh, another person said, Mike, what sort of movies are you watching in which there are lesbian or homosexual kisses within the first 5 minutes? So I guess I outed myself as a consumer of really raunchy homosexual porn. I'll stop that. I won't do that anymore. Okay, here, I'll just give you a few of them. A Jew, a goy on YouTube, where the algorithm does not care if you scream. Huh? What do you think of that?
I think there's too much in there, but it's all good.
Yeah, it is all good. But Esther Kurtzman said, Israel update, where we bring the truth to the surface. And Yael Mayer said, Israel update, insult us, we don't care. Jonathan Varmund had a ton. One of them was democracy dies in darkness. Number 2, all the news is fit to print. Maybe we should do all the news that's not fit to print. Number 3, chutzpah, not hubris. Number 4, common sense conversations. I kind of like that one, actually. I like the really boring subtitles. 5, let our people understand. 6, let there be light. 7, covenantal conversations. 8, on the other hand. And then 9, kosher, not kooky. Oh, then there was also number 10, streaming sophisticated analysis.
How about we're not done yet? That's a good name for a show. I'm not sure it's okay.
We're not done yet. There was one guy who said sane under the circumstances, and I thought maybe we should do as sane as can be under the circumstances.
As possible.
As sane as possible under the circumstances. What do you think of that? I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's put that down somewhere.
Are you just humoring me or what? I really
I do like it. I do like it.
My favorite so far, as sane as possible under the circumstances.
Yeah, that plays off the Canadian slogan that we mentioned, I think, twice.
Yeah. One from I just want to clip things is the person's name. Israel update, one of a tiny handful of places to go since the world lost its goddamn mind.
That's a good one.
Actually, there are. We will do something with this. There's a ton in here. We thank you all. We really do. This is a good moment, Gadi, to remind everybody to like this, but also to subscribe. There was one person on here, Sababa in or Saba Ban or Sababa in, who said he can't figure out how to subscribe. I don't know what to do with someone like that. We love you. We love you. Don't go away. Ask your grandson how to subscribe.
Okay, so now for the dumbest take on the news, and I must say there were so many of them on the Israeli press that everyone had like a field. Everyone on right-wing feed had a field day. So I have a bunch of them.
Can I interrupt you again? There's certain moments. Like for me politically, the Iran nuclear deal was one. If you didn't know that this was a bad thing, that's a bad sign. This was a bad thing, right? That 9/11. If you held the United States responsible for 9/11, there's something wrong with your brain. October 7. If your response to October 7 was, well, this is really complicated, right? There's something wrong with your brain, right? And if September 27, that's the date, wasn't it? September 27, the date that the marshmallow mullah met his maker. If on September 27th, your initial gut reaction wasn't good, you gotta go talk to somebody. Seek help, really. Seriously, this is fantastic.
Yeah. You know, in the dark edge, there are people who hoped it would be the other way around. Some people are so deranged by Galebet, the BDS, you call it in English, the Bibi derangement syndrome, that if Nasrallah shot a rocket and it fell on Caesarea, they would be happier than now. But I'm not saying that the whole of the Israeli left is like this, but some people are still foaming in the mouth, and they can't be happy because they can't be happy with crediting anything to Netanyahu. And in the dark edge, there are people, and I'm saying this is a fact, it's not an opinion, who would have Israel lose the war just so that Netanyahu cannot win it, because they truly believe that the real enemy is the enemy within. It's the looming specter of Jewish supremacy and fascism. That's the real danger. And therefore, Smotrich hiding behind Bibi is worse than Nasrallah.
I want to say something which is the kind of thing I don't usually say. It kind of goes against what I was saying to you before about Muslim versus Jew. I think it's very important to understand that in the let's say Middle Eastern view of history, it is a terrible deformation of history that the West is dominant, that the Christians are dominant over the Muslims. And it adds insult to injury that this little 9 million country of 9 million of Jews has as much power as it has. The world should not be like this. The world should not be like this.
In their mind.
In their minds, right. And so when you have an event like October 7th, it is, that they smell blood in the water. We saw that here. It surprised me in the West too, how many anti-Semites came out of the woodwork. They were so thrilled by it. It was, I thought, wow, I did no idea. All these people were lurking in the shadows and just waiting for this moment. And there's another element here too. Nasrallah represents Islamism. All of the other isms in the modern Arab political universe, they failed. The Pan-Arabism failed. Remember, Nasser was the guy who led the jihad against the West and against Israel. It failed. The Islamist argument is that Nasserism failed because it was insufficiently pious, right? So when the guy who is the leading Islamist and who's saying that we're going to succeed where all those other guys failed, right? When he gets crushed like that it has a psychological blow that on the other side, you're saying that there's a morale boost to Israel, right? I posted some videos. I'm giggling, listening to all the lamentations and the weeping of the women at the Beirut airport and so on. And let me tell you, ladies, your tears are so sweet to me. I'm telling you, they are so sweet to me because those people realize in their gut. They didn't just lose the marshmallow mullah, right? They realize that this is a turning point. They're fearful.
Their hopes are once again crushed.
Yeah, but they're fearful.
And once again,
they're fearful for themselves. They're fearful for themselves. They understand that this could be the beginning of them end of them in Lebanon, and that all of those people in Lebanon that are sharpening their knives for them could be coming after them and so on. But anyway, this was, you hear a lot of these assholes. Pardon me, I gotta watch my language, but I'm emotional about this, Gadi. I'm allowed. No. There are a lot of these people who I do not think highly of, who always say, "Oh, Nasrallah is an idea, and Islamism is an idea, and Hamas represents an idea, and you can't defeat an idea with a military, right?" And all of this nonsense, right? You can defeat it, and the idea is being defeated right in front of our eyes. The morale of the Israelis is rising, and the morale of the other side is dropping precipitously. You can see it. They know, believe me, all those Hezbollah supporters in Lebanon, they see all those videos of all of those Syrians in northeast Syria who are cheering and eating baklava and letting off their weapons because they are so thrilled that these guys are going down.
Yes, indeed. And there were many cartoons and videos and even AI animations about Netanyahu being a hero. And in Arabic, you saw Arabic media with Netanyahu walking out of fire with his Tom Cruise Ray-Ban sunglasses in, Ghostbuster, I don't know. Ghostbusters, was it? With a black suit and tie. So there's genuine appreciation, and also this region appreciates power, and this was a demonstration of power. And I should mention this in one of our forthcoming shows about the two conceptions of power, because there's an amazing sketch of a Mizrahi woman and an Ashkenazi woman, and they're debating if the Ashkenazi woman should get another Ashkenazi or should have a child with someone who is Mizrahi. And all the stereotypes are crammed into this one sketch. It's really, really funny. And at one point, at one point, the Ashkenazi woman said that she wants him to be a student because knowledge is power. And the other woman slaps her and she said, power is power. And so in this region, power is power.
Power is power.
Yeah, it's not cyber. It's power. It explodes, and so I think you're right. But we were going to go to the dumbest takes on the news, and there are so many of them on my side that I will just mention a couple because they're all the same. And what I wanted to do is just mention the people who've been bending over backwards in order to not give Netanyahu credit. You remember, Ata Rosh Ata Hashem, you are the head, you are guilty, but suddenly you're not the head at all. So this is a leftist. This is a leftist. Her name is Tami Mulad Chayu. And she said the security establishment had to have the husband of the wife of the prime minister, she refers to Netanyahu as subordinate to his wife, away so that they could act. Netanyahu is a total failure in security, economics, and diplomacy. And if it not for the people who resisted the reform, which were the pilots who heroically dropped the bombs, we would not have had anyone eliminated. So the fighters against the reform have been vindicated while Netanyahu was the opposite. And then I tweeted something like that. And I said, I tweeted in the name of Ben Caspit, and a lot of people laugh at Ben Caspit here. So I tweeted Ben Caspit, Colin, Netanyahu had to be away for the army to achieve this amazing fiat. And then Ben Caspit tweeted something like that too, and just killed my joke. It was I couldn't. He's funnier than his own parody, and so there were many like this. Ben Caspit indeed tweeted, you remember this, the pilots of Squadron 69, the strategic arm, those who resisted he calls it the judicial coup. They went to the Dahia, and they are to be credited for this amazing achievement, and on it goes. So just one in another direction, because one went so far as to thank the Attorney General. He thanked everybody, including the Attorney General.
What strike? What? Because he's a non-combatant, and so she made an exception.
No, because in their mind, there are the good forces, which is the deep state. You know, the security establishment, the judiciary, academia, the press, and all these people, including the Attorney General, they're on the good side. They have to be thanked, and they managed to pull it out despite Netanyahu. And so something in a completely different vein is Ido Shifoni, who had this. I think it comes from English, so I won't be needing to explain it. It has a picture of Hassan Nasrallah, and it says, "This is Hassan. Hassan has been watching channels 11, 12, and 13 too much until he believed that Israel was weak. Hassan is dead. Don't watch 11, 12, and 13. Don't be Hassan." That got a lot of attention on Israeli Twitter. We'll have to speak about the press the next time, Mike, because the line in the press is now bring back 1701. I know I'm now teasing you, and I shouldn't, but we need to discuss this because the press here is the mouthpiece for the Biden administration.
Why are you teasing me, or are you teasing our viewers and listeners?
I'm teasing you because our viewers have better impulse control than you do, and I trust them more.
No, I don't understand.
And you told me never to say anything bad about our viewers. I'm left with you.
Why are you teasing me though? And in what way are you teasing me?
Because I thought this would inflame your passion about the media narrative. But I'm willing to go back on that comment. It's really not that important.
No, it didn't inflame my passion anyway. We should discuss 1701 next time.
Yeah, and the press. I meant the press.
Guy, one of our viewers, listeners, audience member asked me to explain why the Democrats have this mania for engaging Iran, and I will do that, but not today. I have to do my dumbest take here, which is, and before I do my dumbest take, let me remind everyone who didn't subscribe or like us in response to my last request 5 minutes ago, do it now, okay? Please. I'm sorry, I won't order the audience around. I will just request, please.
Mm-hmm.
Get the algorithm for us. All right, mine comes from Axios. Axios quoted a U.S. official who said, Nasrallah was a bad guy. Certainly, Gadi, he was a bad guy. But it is frustrating that the Israelis are doing this, killing him, without consulting us, and then ask that we clean it all up when it comes to deterring Iran. I love it. First of all, they did not ask. I think it's been well reported that they decided not to tell the Americans they were going to do this. And the Americans are responsible for this, and not responsible for this, but the administration is incapable of grasping the dynamic. On April 13, 14, when Iran attacked Israel, the United States restrained it and thereby damaged its deterrence. The United States rewarded the Iranian attack and ensured that there will be more Iranian attacks and a continuation of the Houthi attacks and a continuation of Hezbollah's attacks, etc. And so they gave Israel no choice but to start going up the ladder of escalation against the will of the Americans in order to demonstrate both to Washington, but also to everybody in the world that they cannot be constrained by playing to the Americans the way the Iranians have been doing. So anyway, that's also this thing, Nasrallah was a bad guy. This guy belongs on the other side of the line that I drew. Can you understand that something really good happened for the world? Destruction of Nasrallah is a very good thing. This is good for the world. It's good for the United States. The Israeli Air Force just did a service to humanity. Okay, the other U.S. official said, this is a different one, also quoted by Axios. Nasrallah has blood on his hands. Certainly. But there's always the but. They have to start with, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but the Biden administration doesn't see how Israel's, quote, whack-a-mole, unquote, approach will address the larger strategic picture. This is the dumbest comment ever. This is not whack-a-mole. They just took out one of the leaders of the second most important person in the Iranian alliance system. They took him out. That's power, Gadi. That is part of a strategy of defeating that alliance system. It's not whack-a-mole. The Americans, the fact that they have this kind of attitude, they believe there's some kind of negotiated settlement that's win-win for Hezbollah and for Israel. They're so deep down that rabbit hole that they cannot see things clearly.
Yeah, they don't. That's how we think of the typical problem of American diplomacy, is that it thinks that between any 2 points there's a middle point, and that's not true, because politics are not geometry. And even Bill Maher had a joke about that there's no middle point between I want to kill you and I want to live. There is no half killing you. As we all know from the famous trial of the wisest of kings, King Solomon, who suggested to the two mothers to split the baby in half, and therefore discovered who the real mother of the baby was. Mike, thank you very much for making the time on a Sunday evening to record this, or a Sunday afternoon to record this. We will post this. When you hear this, it will probably be a Monday morning in the United States. We therefore wish you, even if you are a goy, we wish you Shana Tova, a happy new year. We may not be here again on Tuesday. As things develop, we may post shorter comments in lieu of a full show. Mike, it's time for you to wish Israel and our audience Shana Tova, I think.
Israel update, where even the goys are welcome, where even the goyim are welcome. How's that?
That's not bad at all. That's not bad. And you know, a prominent Israeli journalist who watched our show said, "This is my favorite goy." And if you knew who Iritli is, you would have been very proud to carry that badge. I would personally, I would put it as a line in your CV.
Okay, Iritli favorite goy.
Exactly.
But I'm opening my arms to all of the other goyim, flock you unto me.
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next year, and it will be more than a year to the war when we do. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and as Mike reminds you, please like us too. We'll see you on the next show.